Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will try to explain my very first HTML CSS template. So here is my template. First, there is a nav bar that contains a logo, followed by a list of items. After that, there are icons, which I have taken from Font Awesome. Then there is a button. I have wrapped all these inside a main div, which I have given the class name navbar. In CSS, I give main div background color white. Inside this main div, the first div contains the logo. The second div contains the list items. The third div contains the icons. The fourth div contains the button. In CSS, I applied display flex property to the main div to arrange all these divs in a row. I also used justify content, space between, property to distribute space between them properly. After this, there is another section for which I have given the main div the class name main section. In CSS, I set its width and margin to center it properly. Inside this section, first, I used an h3 tag for a heading and applied color and font size styling in CSS. Then, I added an h1 tag for another heading and styled it similarly. After that, there is a paragraph inside a p tag, which I also styled, using color and font size properties in CSS. Following the paragraph, there are two buttons, which I wrapped inside a div. I applied display flex to this div to arrange the buttons in a row. The next section has a main div with the class name communication. Inside this section, there are two divs. One div is named left side, which contains an image, and I have set its width in CSS. The other div is named right side, which contains text. I applied display flex to the main div in CSS so that its child divs appear in a row. I also use justify content to create spacing between them. The next section has a main div with the class name services. Inside this, I first created a div with the class name content services. In this div, I added an h2 tag with the heading our services and a paragraph inside a p tag. I applied display flex to the content services div to arrange its elements in a row. After that, within the same main div, services, I created another div with the class name container. Inside this container div, I added three divs with a class name box. Each box contains an image and text, which I styled using CSS. To arrange these boxes in a row, I applied the display flex property to the container div. Similarly, I created three more boxes in the same way to maintain the layout structure. In the next section, I created a main div with the class name business. Inside this div, I first added a heading inside an h2 tag, followed by a paragraph and then a button. I styled all these elements in CSS. After that, there is another section with a main div named clients. Inside this div, I first added a heading inside an h2 tag, followed by images.
The next section has a main div with the class name blogs. Inside this div, I first created another div named content logs. Within content logs, there are two divs. One, the first div contains a heading where I used an h3 tag for text and applied a background color in CSS. Below that, I added another heading inside an h2 tag with the text our blogs. 2, the second div, named blogbtn, contains a button, which I styled in CSS. To arrange these two divs in a row, I applied the display flex property to the content blogs div. After this, inside the main blogs div, I created another div named blocks container. Inside blocks container, I placed three blog box divs. Each blog box contains an image and text. I applied display flex to blocks containers so that the blog boxes appear in a row. Next, I created another section with a main div named our happy customer. In CSS, I gave this div a width and a black background color. Inside this div, I created another div named our customer, which contains two divs. 1, asterisk asterisk left side customer asterisk asterisk. This contains text and a button. 2, asterisk asterisk right side customer asterisk asterisk. This has a white background color applied in CSS. I applied display flex to the Our Customer divs so that both child divs appear in a row. I also used justify content space between to create spacing between them. Below this, I created another div, which has a white background color in CSS. I applied display flex to this div so that its child elements appear in a row. The child elements include a paragraph and 3 icons. Using justify content space between on the parent div, I created space between them. The last section is the footer, which I named Contact Us. Inside this div, I created another div named Contact, which contains 3 child divs. I applied display flex to the contact div so that its child divs align in a row, appearing one after the other. Here is my code, which I generated using Visual Studio Code Editor. This is my HTML file. My CSS file in which I style my template. My code is also available on my GitHub account.